Here, you see this? Hey, game devs, Joy Masher, Steel Mantis, Artur Games, MDHR, if you wanted to update Cuphead, I guess. This is for you and anyone else that wants to make a run and gun game. See what I'm doing here? Put this in your games, please. And if it isn't clear enough here, let me explain. I've made this little video to exemplify a feature I want to see in future run and gun titles, or at least make more people aware of this. A for your consideration feature for future developers if they so have the gall to make something inspired by Contra, the most notable run and gun series of all time. I'm also making this because I realize it's a bit difficult to describe what I mean with words alone. This feature I'll be discussing can also be applied to 3D gunners, as I will demonstrate shortly. Please, if you know anyone in these teams or any developers trying to make a run and gun game, show them this video. Back when Contra was on the NES, the humble controller for that console only had 2 buttons to work with. Of course, by the great power of a company that used to care about making quality games, this series was able to span across generations. With new generations of gaming came new controllers, with more buttons. This meant an overhaul in how Contra would control when new titles were made, its first evolution on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. More freedom to give the player a stronger edge against the alien baddies ahead. So what was this revolutionary mechanic? The amazing ability to aim. Holding down the shoulder button let you aim your gun so you didn't walk while trying to get an angle. You keep pointing your gun in any of the 8 directions whilst firing, and it's great. This became a staple for the rest of the franchise. Well, the good games in said franchise at least. Other developers took note of this great feature as well. It was in Alien Soldier, Gunstar Heroes. This was also the only way of firing your gun in the original Earthworm Jim games. But not Metal Slug, oddly enough. Could have been mapped to that 4th button you guys never used, but whatever. And of course, future side-scrolling games with shooting mechanics that were heavily inspired by the run and gun genre would not dare to leave this move out of their arsenal. Games like Cuphead, Super Cyborg, Valfaris, Blazing Chrome, etc. It makes sense. Contra 3 and Contra Hardcore are the standard, right? But let's talk a little bit about the considerably ignored generation Contra strove in? Contra Shattered Soldier was released on the PlayStation 2 back in 2002, and if you claim to be a Contra fan but ignore this title, not only are you a huge poser, but you're also doing yourself a disservice. In Japan, this game was titled Shin Contra, as in true Contra. Perhaps because it was bringing the series back to the basics after being led astray with pure incompetency back on the PlayStation 1, or because this game was created by many of the developers behind Contra 3 and Hardcore, most notably Nobuya Nakazato, the director of both 4th gen games who returned to the same leading position for this PS2 title as well. This game is amazing. It's brutal, it's gross, it's badass, it's Contra. Shin Contra. But I could go on. That's not what I want to focus on, but rather a new feature they added for the series. With this brand new generation, the developers within Konami would finally let you strafe. Yep, this is the ability I'm talking about. It's strafing. While not really strafing if you think about it in a 3D or first-person perspective, it achieves the same concept that it does in your Max Paynes and non-Max Paynes. Keep your aim locked in a certain direction as you're shooting and continue being able to move around. See? Check it out. This is achieved by holding down L2 completely free from burdening the player's ability to hold down the fire button or moving with the left thumbstick. I know it seems like such a small thing, but it's actually incredibly handy and feels good to take advantage of. This feature was so damn good, the Game Boy Advance hybrid port of Contra 3 even included it. Crazy, right? Even Hardcore Uprising lets you strafe. If anything, I can say I'm glad they didn't forget that, something Contra 4 did forget. Contra 4 is a beast of its own I need to reconcile with. We'll talk about that another time, I'm sure. There was even Neo Contra, the second PS2 Contra title that evolved their previously failed 3D gameplay style into a crunchy, delicious, tightly designed experience. And you know what? They didn't forget the strafing either. This is what I mean by how games like Enter the Gungeon can benefit from a strafing mechanic, and pretty much any other 3D overhead shooter. The funny thing is, as much as I'd love to give Contra the credit for inventing this mechanic, they didn't. As far as I can tell, this was first seen in Alien Soldier for the Sega Genesis back in 1995. The folks at Treasure were geniuses, letting Epsilon Eagle here strafe 7 years before Shattered Soldier. It's hard to even call Alien Soldier a run-and-gun game, but the mechanic is unmistakable. Great job, Treasure. You guys are awesome. And as much as I didn't care for Gunstar Superheroes, I gotta give it credit for also having this feature. It's alright, whatever. Now, please go make another game already. I've played a good amount of run-and-gun games in my years. Maybe not every single one, but I hope I've shown here and before that I'm well acquainted with this subgenre. Contra 3 in particular houses some of my earliest memories. I spent an entire month playing Shattered Soldier for hours on end when I was 13, just to manage a perfect S rank to unlock the secret Rocket Knight scene. I'm not going to point any fingers here, but there have been times me or some friends got to ask game developers if they've ever considered utilizing a strafing feature for their games, and nobody knew what we were talking about. I legitimately think it's something they never considered for their games, despite being a great movement option that adds an extra layer of depth in how players can approach their games. If you're aiming to make run-and-gun games, please consider this when designing it and how the character should control. That's all I'm asking. Thanks for your time and peace.